Awesome. Well, it is my honor and privilege to have both Hilary, which we co-founded Hims and Hers together, so this is a lot of fun for us to be up here and have a chance to talk about it, and Sarah here to talk about Glow Recipe as well, on how to build really big breakthrough consumer brands. Before we get started, do you guys want to both briefly introduce yourselves and maybe both talk a little bit about your background and the backgrounds of the companies, and then we can dive into some of the questions.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lee. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Glow Recipe. We're all about fruit-forward, clinically effective skincare for glowing skin. I started the brand with my co-founder, Christine, about 10 years ago, and a couple years after that, we launched our own namesake brand, which is what you see on the shelves of Sephora today around the globe in 2017. In partnership with Sephora, and since then we were able to really propel the growth of our D2C along with the retailer partnerships. And today we're the #1 facial skincare brand at Sephora in the US.
Amazing.
Hi, I'm Hilary Coles. I'm a co-founder of Hims and Hers. We are a telehealth company that helps you feel your best through categories like mental health, weight loss, sexual performance, and hair loss. We started this project because there were a lot of secular tailwinds that were happening, call it 2016, 2017, around these branded products like Viagra and Cialis and Propecia that were coming off patent, which means that they were affordable and available. What I think made our approach different is that we really believed that we could inspire people to take care of themselves. And I used to work, my first job really was working with injured veterans who had been taken off their first choice, their plan A, and suddenly had to figure out a plan B. And seeing what happened when they were given the opportunity to believe in themselves, to become the person that they had always planned to be, even through this roadblock, really taught me about growth mindset and how important it is to give people access to products and inspiration that really helps them reflect who they are internally into who they see in the mirror. And so from the beginning, when you think of that was always our goal, thinking of companies like Nike or Apple. These are companies that inspire you to really, whether it's simplify complicated products like computers, or Nike to embark on really hard athletic pursuits regardless of your shape. You can have, our belief is that by creating this simple process was always important, yes, but was more about that emotional bond and that brand that we could create in inspiring people to take care of themselves.
Excellent. Thank you both. So one of the things that's unique about both of you and the companies that you're here to represent is you've built brands that a lot of people know and recognize. They're in the vernacular. You've kind of broken through the noise. One of the challenges these days, of course, is there's a lot of noise. It's really hard to get people's attention. They're being pulled in a million different directions. And notably, you both did it in a very different way, at least initially, and different strategies, but they both worked. So I'd love to understand for both of you, what's the arc of the brand? Like, what got it going? What sustains it today? What comes next for it? How do you think about building a true brand that resonates with people and stands for something?
I can start. A lot of things, but I think it starts with product. As a beauty company, I always say to my team, product is king. No matter what you do, if your product doesn't work, it's just not going to stick around, whatever you do. So that is a non-negotiable. The great thing is we have, myself included, a team of people that are experienced in product development, and that was how we initially started. And then at the same time, the consumers' demands and needs shift every single day, and it's faster than ever. So I think it's really important to also be on the cusp, understand what's going on, especially on the social media world. For a beauty brand, that is so critical, and work with them. That's actually been one of our key strategies, to build a community, be with them, listen to them, make them feel like they're heard and seen. That's such a key phrase now. But actually take action based on what they say and have this amazing engagement. And that's one of the key growth drivers for our company, at least for Glow Recipe, which is community building and not just building, but really going deep with them. So that's been part 2 after product. And in order to do that, you need to have really compelling, powerful, scroll-stopping content. So that's been also one of our key tools for us, because we're a skincare brand, and when we started the brand, skincare was perceived as a little too serious, intimidating, not fun. It was just something that people thought of as a chore, and we wanted to break that barrier. We wanted to make people feel that skincare could actually be fun and something that they can look forward to and enjoy at the end of a long, tired, stressful day. And so our philosophy of, making sure that the 2 or 3 minutes of your day is actually sensorial, experiential, immersive, smells good, it touches really nicely, but also you look forward to amazing clinical results, really like thinking about the 360 journey of a consumer from when she's scrolling online or when she's in the store, walking around the store and like stopping in front of your shelves, to touching, feeling, to experiencing it overnight. Like that's, every part of it has been thought out. And packaging was a really key player of that as well. So that's why when you see Glow Recipe, it's a very colorful glass bottles. Everything represents a story. Each product has its own story, even through packaging. So a key word that we always use for internal brainstorm sessions is scroll stopping. How can this content that we create be scroll stopping? There's so much noise, to your point. There's so much content every single day, but why would people stop at looking at our content? It has to be a little bit interesting, but it has to be educational, so people are learning a thing or two, even from the 2 or 3 seconds of swiping. So these are the little details that actually go a long way that we think about, and each content does take a long time to create internally because it's so thought out and strategic. And then lastly for us, it was always to make sure that it's not just about us, but it's about the partnerships. So the retailer partnership has been something that we've really prioritized to make sure that it's strong but deep, which is why in terms of distribution, we didn't go wide right off the bat. We partner strategically with a couple. For example, Sephora. We actually went exclusive with them in North America. And because of that, we were able to get a ton of support. They really used their platform to incubate the brand when we were not known at all. And it was the best marketing tool that we could have ever asked for. And through that, we would also, ask them questions, ask for insight. When they give us advice, we always took that to heart and took the feedback and incorporated that for next steps. And I think they also appreciated that. So we had this ongoing, amazing relationship until this day. I will say, being a partner of Sephora's has been one of the key drivers of success as well. So I would say those are the 4 sort of drivers for us as a brand, how we were able to achieve the growth so far.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, so for Hims, if our why is helping you feel great through the power of better healthcare, our how we do that comes down to 2 things. Everything we do ladders up to innovation and normalization. So innovation, that means our product development. So we recently launched a combination ED and heart health medication, for example, so that the majority of men over the age of 45 need to be on a statin. And also, they're likely not going to forget their erectile dysfunction medication. And so having a 2-in-1 is just a much better customer experience, and it's better for their health. We also innovate on customer experience, right? How easy it can be to just see a doctor from your phone. So you don't have to go make the appointment, pay the out-of-pocket fee, take time off work, find a babysitter, all of these things. We're constantly innovating on how we keep that experience very, very frictionless and very, very, while still feeling very, very personalized. So on the innovation side, that's really where we keep pushing. And then on the normalization side, that's everything from our celebrity partnerships with Kristen Bell and Snoop Dogg back in the day. But it's very important to us to showcase people who are actually taking these prescription products that are having an incredible impact on their life, because they are at their core science-backed and effective products. And so we normalize through telling true stories like that at a celebrity level, but also through members of our community. We have a group of about 1,500 customers that we work with really, really closely who want to share their experience, whether that's on a commercial with us and paid marketing on our website, or just want to stay close to us, and we send them some products here and there. We get their thoughts. But part of sharing that experience at every single level is really part of our democratic approach to helping everyone feel great. It also comes across in the education we do, as Sarah said. Education is so important for every brand right now, especially in the health and beauty and wellness space. And we take that really seriously across our own channels like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And it's important that the content feels native to each platform, distinctly your brand, but is also serving the customer, right? Like, I think sometimes, and we just talked about this in the breakout session, success can be such a double-edged sword as you scale your business, because in the beginning you're so close to your customer and you know what they're looking for because you're looking for it too. You know all the competitors, you know all the pain points so intimately. And the more successful you get, the more you scale, the more you stay away from that, the more it's up to you every single day to say, is this something that I think is cool and that I want to talk to my friends about? Or is this something that my customer actually needs? And so I think as for us, that means normalizing and educating in everything that we do. Yes, it's fun to entertain and all of these things, but ultimately that's what our customers need from us. And so at our core, our ability to build our brand through a variety of metrics, whether that's through organic channels and celebrity partnerships, but also through really strategic product development choices in our innovation category, has driven us to have the public company and household brand name that we have today.
Amazing. Thank you both. One of the things that I think is interesting about both of these brands is they both start as native online D2C brands and now are available in stores everywhere. How critical is tapping into physical retail and omni-channel to building a real true brand? How do you think about that in the mix versus online? What's it take to access that? If you could just comment on that a little bit, and that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think for beauty, omni, you said it really perfectly. Omni is critical, is my point of view. I think that people really want to touch and feel, and there's actually real stats around, the tester and what that converts to real purchase versus, getting samples online. Of course, those help, but I think on the spot purchase, that's what we really focus on today. And what's interesting is, our e-com sales were really off the charts during COVID, because I think that's when people were really looking into skincare, self-care, they were staying home and wanted to feel good about their skin health. So luckily, we were able to sort of establish a huge customer base at that time. But now, post-COVID, everyone is going into stores, even after they're learning about the product on TikTok or Instagram. There's a lot of customers, I would say most of them at this point, that would screenshot their favorite product or something that looked interesting online from their favorite creator that they follow, or whatever stood out on social, and then bring it to the store and show the beauty advisor and say, where is this? And we hear this time and time again. It's been about at least a couple of years since we started hearing that. And this year, we've also started seeing a shift in terms of the .com versus brick and mortar split, where it used to be, let's say, 60-40. Now it's 30-70. So it's a very interesting swing that we're experiencing. It's not just our brands. It's actually most of the Sephora brands or other retailers that have a huge amount of brick and mortar presence that they're seeing this. So I think to have optionality, because consumers are shifting in the way that they shop. Now, omni is a key word, but who knows what's going to happen 5 years from now? There could be different ways of shopping. So I think for me, as a brand that's very focused on experience and immersive experience, especially, having options, whether it's online or offline, and being native, to Hilary's point, to each platform is critical. If you're in brick and mortar primarily, focusing on how your shelves look, how the testers are displayed, how the beauty advisors are educated to be able to speak to your product. And if you are able to provide service, that's really a 360 over there. For .com, as I mentioned earlier, skincare used to be a chore, but it's becoming more of this fun category. So to keep that momentum, making skincare as fun or as transformative as makeup used to be is really the key point here, so that still online you're feeling like you're immersed into something that's fun and interesting and keeping your attention. So that is currently our strategy, to keep this omni-channel strategy, because again, you never know how the consumers are going to shift, and we're really fully leveraging all of these touch points.
Totally. I would also add, I think in these, in early COVID, people were more willing to spend money and not be positive about their purchase. And I think in this sort of more uncertain economic times, we're certainly seeing that customers want to feel smart about where they're putting their money and de-risking that. And that means going to the store and making sure that what you see on TikTok or what you saw on a reel is what is you're actually going to go get, and seeing and feeling it for yourself. So that's been really, really interesting. I think when we thought about retail, it came down to two things. One is the physical availability, right? And being able to be in more doors. And I saw something really great on X recently, that where would the buyer get a promotion for carrying your product? Where is it such a perfect placement, such a perfect fit that you know this customer base would just absolutely love your product if it was carrying? And I thought that was like a really great partnership, and sort of how we thought about our entry, which we entered with Target, because we really felt it was a similar sort of household brand name, safe family value type place that benefited our relatively new brand at the time, because at 2019 we were only, call it 2 years old when we went into retail, and so that did a lot of work, which brings me to the second point, which is mental availability. I think we really see retail also as like a billboard, as an additional channel for us to be able to increase our familiarity with the brand, which then ultimately makes them trust us longer term, because the bulk of our business is subscription and prescription, which means you need to go online to connect with a medical provider and get access to the treatment. But that doesn't mean that retail is not important. Retail is still very important. We just treat it like more like any other channel, but it does serve that purpose of both mental and physical availability. And so thinking through what that could mean for your brand, I think, is really important.
Great. I think another thing that both brands have done a really good job of thinking through over time has been the balance between organic and inorganic traffic. Yeah. So inorganic, of course, being paid and growing using that, and organic being naturally occurring. It could be through word of mouth. It could be people coming back, et cetera, et cetera. Sarah, on our call, I think you mentioned an incredible stat of like only 2% of your revenue is spent on marketing, which is unbelievable to think about. Would love to hear you talk about that a little bit, how you've been able to achieve that. I know at Hims and Hers, we started entirely inorganic and just tried to grow as fast as possible, and the business has been doing well. It'll hopefully exit this year of $1 billion ARR or more. But organic has also been really, really important in terms of how we've thought about that and driving word of mouth and getting those curves, the inorganic, organic curves to cross over time. I remember getting that to 50% was a really big deal. So from both approaches, how do you achieve that, and how do you think about the mix between those things and what the right balance is?
Yeah, so just to clarify, so the split between paid and unpaid earned media, so earned media value that's driven by paid and unpaid was 98% to 2%.
Got it.
Which is still a pretty extreme split. I don't know if you guys are familiar with earned media value, but it's essentially, a stat that looks at how much your brand is talked about online, especially social media. So imagine, 100 people are talking about our brand. 2 of them were the ones that we paid to talk about our brand. 98 of them were not. So that's sort of the easy way to understand it. So based on those stats, we were floored to hear that. But like I mentioned, community building is such a huge driver of our growth so far. And there's a few things that we did to achieve that. Until this day, internally, we're always brainstorming ways to maximize organic EMV versus paid, because that's actually what converts. People see through paid ads now. You have to add hashtag partner, hashtag ad. And once you start seeing that, or once you start seeing the brand pushing out their content, it's just very obviously their ad, you swipe through, right? Like, you're not really staying on to click through as a consumer, even myself. So I think what's important is a couple things. One, as a young brand, what we prioritized was to build relationships with our community. interaction, engagement was our keyword. It meant that if people left comments or sent us DMs, emailed us, there was not a single message that was not responded to. And that was really, I think from our perspective, it was if a consumer is spending a few minutes of the day on our platform and really thinking about us as a brand, it's the least that we could do is to respond to them. So that was where we were coming from. And we did that, since we had 100 followers on Instagram, now we have about 2 million followers across both TikTok and Instagram, and we still do that to this day. So I think that goes a long way. Two, if we see a lot of engagement, organic sort of love from creators, we don't just watch them. We respond to them right away. So that's the job that our PR team does really well currently. But it started from myself, my co-founder, where we would just find people that genuinely loved our product. We would reach out to them, whether it's via DM or email, whatever touch point it might have been. And we kept a relationship. We thanked them. We sent them free products if they were creators. And we kept seeding them new products. If we found out about their special occasions like wedding, birthday, graduation, we would send them gifts so that there is this personal touch. I remember the very first time we actually were able to break even was when, this is back in the day, when Refinery 29 was a really powerful beauty platform. They still are, but at that time, they were really like the number one beauty Bible, exactly. And one of the editors wrote about us, and because of that, every single product had sold out. But the reason why she wrote about us with so much passion was because we reached out to them personally and customized their routine based on all the articles that we read about them for the past 3 months. So it took a lot of effort and time in the beginning. I remember, our brand wasn't really well known. So between my co-founder and I, we split and, in total probably had about 600 reach outs, all that were customized to editors, creators on YouTube, press, you name it. And again, everything was very, very personalized to them based on what they wrote, based on the content that they had posted prior. And I think that actually garnered a huge response rate. And from there, we never let go of those relationships because the early ones that we were so grateful for, we still to this day invite them to every single press event that we have. So that's sort of the foundation of building a community, not just from a consumer standpoint, but also from, press and creators and whatnot. There's different tiers, right? Then I think the other thing is that's important now with the community is not just talking about how amazing your product is to show who you really are and the brand's personality. Because again, there's so much noise. So how do you stand out? The best way to stand out is for you to align your core values with your core audience. That is, to me, the number one most important thing. So, for example, we believe in real skin acceptance. That's a real passion of mine personally and our entire team, meaning we don't want to be unrealistic with skin expectations. So we actually stopped using words like perfect, flawless, poreless, anti-aging, anti-wrinkle, because that's just not a reality. And actually, you need pores in order to stay alive. And so we wanted to dismantle all these, traditional, unrealistic beauty norms. And we spoke about it, and we pledged to our audience, saying, we promise we will never use these words. And if we ever did in the past, we're going to audit every single page, social media post that we've done, and remove them. And we did. And I think that was sort of a shock factor in a way, because a lot of beauty brands still today use words like perfect, flawless. It's a very commonly used word. And so many of our, especially the Gen Z generation, have thanked us for keeping it real. And so we wanted to take that even further earlier this year to create a campaign called the Do You campaign, which was basically Love is Blind, or The Voice in the beauty sector. So it was a blind casted 10 models from all walks of life who've never imagined that they could be a star of a campaign. And we let them do that. And they had skin concerns, or they had different, one of them is a Down syndrome advocate, one of them is a core model. And again, there was so much diversity and inclusivity that came out of that campaign, which we were saying, we're not judging you by how you look, we're judging you, we're holding hands with you based on how you're defining the meaning of beauty and skincare and self-care. And so again, this is sort of a way for us to sort of garner organic content and excitement versus paying and doing sponsored posts with multiple different creators out there, because ultimately we are spending money, but we're doing it in a way that emotionally touches them and excites them and once again aligns their values with the brand.
I think that's such a good point on community, because I think people are always asking me, or it's $1 million question, right? Like, how do you build community? And you're not going to unite people around your product, right? That's too transactional. People need to stand for a movement, and that is why they will join your community, because if you're clear about what your values are, what your POV is, that is what they want to be a part of. They don't want to be part of our community because we offer prescription medication, right? Then you could go be a community member with Pfizer or whoever. But they want to be part of it because we're normalizing, because they feel like they used to feel. They feel like themselves again. And that is so powerful that they want to share that with other people. So think about what's underpinning your brand and your why versus just like, how do I get a group of people that I can monopolize and hit up all the time? Because again, customers will see right through that. And just quickly on the paid organic, back in the day when Jack hired me for one of his portfolio companies, we were a consumer-only app, photo sharing app, if you remember ever of them. And we were only essentially in the App Store and on Facebook, so Meta now. And there was that saying, if Meta gets a cold, if Meta sneezes, you get a cold. And we were so small that, Meta sneezes, we were just like out with pneumonia. And my co-founder and I, who both worked on this portfolio company, we really learned from that experience that you never want to be beholden to only one or two channels. And I think that makes sense for a variety of, like, just from business strategic existential perspective, you want to be in as many diversified channels as possible. And then two, you want to make sure you're in front of your customer when they're thinking about your product, when they're in that state of mind where they're willing to consider it. So a lot of these, I think it's easy to get wooed by, do I need to host this influencer dinner? Do I need to do these sampling programs? What do I need to do? Well, what works for your business, right? Like for us, our business is a subscription project, a subscription business model. And so these sampling programs, and it's prescription products, so sampling programs don't make a lot of sense. These like sort of drive-by marketing things, sampling doesn't make sense for us because you need to speak to a doctor and receive our product. But what does make sense for us is building a organic and educational blog. What does make sense for us is a long-term celebrity partnership who has a really authentic experience with our brand and the product that we're selling. These sort of our ability to control the story and the narrative and to educate is really everything for us. So there's like a lot of different of the moment, and there always will be ways to organically reach customers, but I think you need to really consider what's best for your business, and certainly that's what we've seen. We ran an influencer program where it was just influencers that we sent product to, did nothing for us. But we ran an influencer program where we met with real customers, and maybe they had less followers, but what they were able to say, to Sarah's point, like the FTC is really cracking down, so what they're able to say is so different. The conversion rates looked so different, and it went on and on, even past the paid partnership, because it was a real relationship, right? And like that's ultimately what you want. It's a nightmare when you have to convince somebody to post something for you and you feel like, oh, but I spent $5,000 to get this person to do this thing and it's shit. And yeah, like that's not it's not going to be good for anyone. So have a critical perspective with, who believes in the product, who tells the story of the product like you would want to, and who's going to be able to connect with audiences when they're willing and able to pay attention to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you brought up the multi-channel. A lot of people, that have any sort of presence online, you become addicted to the Facebooks of the world.
Totally. It's easy to get fat.
I think one of the most important things we did was crack TV and podcasts and
direct
radio
mail.
And gyms and direct mail, and those are really important to think about. So I'm glad you brought that up. I know we need to run in just a second, so this will be very, very quick. In a word or two, if you had advice for the aspiring and many entrepreneurs that exist here, to achieve the same level of success? If you had to really distill it down, what would it be really quickly?
Really quickly, learn to do things yourself, I think is actually what happened to us and worked. Like I said, I was emailing and calling people firsthand for a long. Actually, it only took 2 weeks to do that, but obviously I didn't sleep much. But because I did that myself and my co-founder too, we're able to speak to our PR team as if we're sort of like in the trenches together. Because I was able to Google everything and learn how to Photoshop. I'm not great at it. But, we were bootstrapped for a while in the beginning, good enough to just put it out there. I'm not great, but I can still speak the same language as my design team and get stuff out now with better skill sets. Same with operations, legal. So not saying you need to be an expert to really learn and run the business. I do think it's important to really sort of get your hands dirty a little bit. It's okay to make mistakes, and I've done a million mistakes along the way, but you learn so much from it. So get your hands dirty.
Great insight. A few words, super quickly.
Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, who I love and respect a lot, has this great saying, which is, keep that part of you that says, how hard could it be? That's really like what makes an entrepreneur. You got to keep believing in that next moment. How hard could it be? Protect that.
Awesome. Thank you guys both so much.